Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the May 9th voting session to order. Please stand for a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence.
Oh, yeah.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Dr. Baldino,
Here.
Mr. Cannon,
Here.
Mrs. Donahue.
Here.
Mr. Elling,
Present.
Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Knopf,
Here.
Ms. Lynch,
Here.
Mr. Scaff,
Here.
and Mrs. Smith. Here. 9 members present.
Okay, first up, we have a presentation this evening from Croda. If you would please come up to the table and use the microphone so the people at home can hear you.
All right. I'm gonna sit and stand if that's okay. I'm gonna sit down first. and then
Okay,
stand.
there's a microphone, a blue microphone there.
Oh, they're looking out? Okay. Where
Yeah.
should I stand?
Anywhere is good, as long as you have the microphone, they can hear you.
You'll hear it if you can hear yourself.
I think you have to turn it on.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, there you
All
go.
right, I'll be brief. So I promise. I know how these meetings go. You have more important things than hearing me talk. And I just want to come here tonight to thank a couple of young gentlemen who've applied to a summer program at Bucknell regarding engineering. Again, I am from Croda. My name's Chris Barnett. I'm the site director there, but mostly I consider myself just an engineer. I went to school way back in the day and had a lot of interest in science myself. So it thrills me to see a couple of young gentlemen also take an interest in science. My company does a lot in the field of chemistry. We hire engineers and scientists, operators, technicians, you name it. We have it over there at the plant that's just here in Mill Hall. And so it really is our pleasure to support, the kids who want to go into STEM type of careers, regardless of what that is. And I hope that they have a great time this summer when they attend this Bucknell camp. I'll introduce them right now. If they want to come up, please, and get a certificate. I have Jeffrey Goldie and Brody Ryan. So, gentlemen. Thank you, sir. Thank you. And thank you. I'll just thank you to the Central Mountain School District to partner with us in making this happen. And we look forward to doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving right along. Hearing of visitors, we have quite a few signed up tonight. Yeah, I just want to remind you that you may speak for a period of no longer than 4 minutes per board policy. Please understand that this is not a time for dialogue with the board. Rather, the board will listen to all comments and consider them in further deliberations. Our individual email address on the website if you'd like to contact your individual board representative. We ask that you please direct your complaints of a personal nature regarding an individual employee directly to the superintendent. First up, I'm going to start with Charles. Is it Hager?
Yes, that's correct.
Ms. Hager.
Good evening. My name is Charles T. Hager Jr. I'm from Porter Township. I'm a 1972 graduate of Lock Haven High School, and my father was an educator at Lock Haven High School for 37 of the 38 years that he taught. As a young boy, I grew up in Lock Haven and I had a paper route. And one of the things that paper route taught me was fiscal responsibility. It taught me basic business principles of income and expenditures and to live within your means. And right now, I don't feel Keystone Central School District is living within their means or being fiscally responsible. And taxation is not the answer, okay? Grants are also taxation via state government and federal government means. You need to start spending from a fiscally responsible perspective. You need to look at cuts in various areas and departments. You're doing a great disservice, not only to the taxpayers and to the parents and students, but to all current and future county residents. Business looks at more than just incentives and infrastructure. They'll look at the quality of the educational system in the area that they want to relocate to or start up in. Keystone Central School District being what they are near the bottom is not helping with economic development in Clinton County. I urge you to vote no on this tax increase tonight. Thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. Have a good evening.
Next up, Tom Cannon would like to speak.
Good evening. I want to start this off by the reason I'm here is because of your actions. Since the night I took my oath of office, you, Dr. Redmond, and this board has done nothing but try to silence me and other board members that does not go along with the failed agenda of this board. In fact, you, Dr. Redmond, have told me personally, and I have heard you tell other board members, you do not want us asking questions at public meetings. And I quote, by you asking questions, it has an effect on public opinion on your ability to run this school. It is not our job or duty to have your view or the public view of you. It's not our job. I have told you every time it is not who I am, and I will be asking questions when the need arises. You are now trying to push through a new policy that will try to stop anyone from questioning you or this board in public settings. To which my only response is, I will not comply with this. I was elected by the public and I only have their concerns in mind, not the opinion of you from the public. In case you need to be reminded, the board oversees you and the public oversees the board. You are paid with taxpayer dollars, in which fact means you work for the same public that you want to silence. If you are going to continue with these attempts of controlling those that will not be your public, then I feel the need to ask you for your resignation because this is a direct violation of your oath. I have heard from this board about how they are going to try to cut spendings, which is a lie. I see the bills to be paid. I can also see when departments are dumping the remainders of their budgets for the year, just so that next year they can say they didn't have enough money last year and need more this year. Every one of you board members took the same oath that I did, and any one of you that favor the silencing of anyone, that actually violates your oath, to which I ask for resignations of your positions for anyone that is voting to silence other people's opinions. That's it.
Thank you. Next up, Martin Lewis.
I should preface this by saying, although I'm not directly speaking for our student government currently, this does represent the opinions of a lot of our members, but we haven't had a full consensus on this, so I don't want to say I'm speaking exactly for everybody. So last week, a job listing was posted on the district employment site. This listing was for a teaching position for social studies at Bucktail/CMHS. This listing was open for only 6 days. Now, we know the district is putting a pause on new hires, and Bucktail only has room for our 2 social studies teachers. This could only mean one thing. So one of our social studies teachers will be required to teach at Central Mountain part-time next year. You can make an assumption based on seniority who will likely be required to do this. No matter, both of our social studies teachers are heavily involved in our school and our community. Both of them coach sports teams in our building. Both of them are involved with community groups at many levels. Both teach full semesters with usually full classes, along with one of our 3 AP courses. And already many of them already teach many core high school, middle school social studies classes. Both have families and both live in the Renovo area. It is at least a 30-minute drive from Renovo to Central Mountain and a 1-hour round trip. This part-time extended commute to work adds extra expenses for car maintenance and gas, which we all know is not cheap. This staff movement is concerning to everyone who works at and attends Bucktail. There have already been rumors of even more teachers moving to part-time between Bucktail and Central Mountain next year. This not only affects us at Bucktail, but it affects students at Central Mountain. 2 departing social studies teachers are being replaced by only a single part-time teacher. We are all very concerned about losing more of our already limited elective choices at Bucktail. Our teachers have little say over their jobs. They're told to do this and they're required to do that, with little concern for the personal lives of our teachers or what other duties they have taken on. Too often, our teachers are treated as subordinates rather than coworkers. This movement may be called temporary this year due to the budget squeeze, but historically in Keystone Central, temporary and permanent have become synonymous. If the temporary solution is just barely working, but still working and saves money, why change it? Our teachers across the district are very good at making the best of very difficult situations, but they cannot continue to do that forever. Bucktail cannot afford to lose more staff. There are only 15 teachers in our building, teaching 160 students between 7th and 12th grade. These teachers have other responsibilities like their own families, community obligations, club advisor duties, athletics, and programs. They must also cover classes for other teachers when there are no substitutes available to cover our building, along with teacher and staff groups responsibilities like MTSS and PBIS groups, as well as advancing their own careers in education. Removing one teacher from our building pushes these responsibilities onto other teachers because one way or another, someone has to do it. It may not be the district's intent or end goal, but you have to understand what actions like this look like to our other teachers, students, and our community. A step closer to consolidation. In this next sentence, I was iffy about putting in here because I don't want it to sound too harsh, but Keystone Central has lost the trust of our community through one way or another, which is the preface for the last sentence. And with the budget deficit looming over the district, holding the security of our education hostage, something like consolidation or partial consolidation of staff and or students appear to be on the table. And that is all that I have.
Thank you, Mark. Next, we have Kenna Bisman.
This evening, I am speaking for a member of Bucktail's softball team. In my opinion, I feel like we shouldn't even have to be put in this difficult situation. I understand financial issues are being brought to light, but why do Bucktail students need to get the bad end of the deal again? There's no reason that a teacher from Bucktail has to be moved down the road. Our teachers make Bucktail. They teach us in a way that we can make connections and understand. They keep the positive vibes throughout our school on the daily. By taking them away, this affects us not only personally, but academically as well. As we already have less electives compared to other schools, moving them from a full day to a half day or only one semester at Bucktail cuts our electives down even more. If this teacher is Miss Wagner, with her being my basketball coach as well, this creates so many problems. For example, what if she is stuck down the road from a tree down and we have to leave for a game before she gets back? We would not have our coach take orders from and learn from. They are the definition of Bucktail pride. Please do not switch them just to appease Central Mountain. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have policy committees. We have a committee meeting between.
Yeah, we had a meeting
policy
yesterday.
we had a lot of discussions. Most everything we did will be held off for some further discussion because we won't be having a policy meeting now till August, is it, Tracy? Yeah. So everything that we talked about, we were waiting for some changes to come through on some wording on different things. And that's pretty much where we are.
Questions on the policy report? Next, we have reports, E1, 2, and 3, treasury report, financial report, enrollment report. Any questions on those? Moving right along, F1, appointment of voting delegates to PSBA. We had 3 people that we need to appoint. We had 3 people volunteer. So we need some motions and seconds.
I'll make the motion. We accept ones that volunteer.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we got a motion and second to have,
I don't know if I can
I was just-
second it
I was gonna
because
say, I
I'm.
don't-
You're on the
Yeah,
list.
just, yeah, no, I'll
Even though
second
we're
it.
second.
Do it.
volunteers, we're not paid.
Come on, Roger, you like
we
I said, I'll second
No,
it.
Yeah.
thank you.
I
have a
can't do
motion
it.
by Tom, a second by Roger to appoint Chris, Bill, and Elizabeth to be the PSBA representative for, what is it? November. I think.
November.
Yeah,
Second,
November 2nd, yeah.
Yep.
So,
no cost.
any questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Same thing annually, we have to appoint the board treasurer. Usually it's business manager. We need a motion for.
I'll make a
for
motion to
F2.
bring Joni.
We have a motion by Chris,
Second that.
second by Roger. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, resolution 149 to post a budget school board resolution. Any questions on that? Basically, all it is a letter that seems like we're sending fairly regularly to Harrisburg to remind them of their duties. We have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Motion by
second it.
Chris, second by Roger. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thanks, Paulie.
That's
So,
the electronic.
We have a contract with Kingsbury for services and compensation agreement for attorney fees. Any questions on that?
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
sorry, we have a motion and a second.
I got a question.
To the motions, I'm sorry. Motion, we need a motion first.
I'll make the motion.
We have a motion. we have a
I'll second that.
Second by Jeff. Now we're open for questions. I'm sorry.
With what they're doing here, is this something different than Mr. David's doing?
Yes. So
Okay.
Kingsbury represents the school district for issues around special education.
Okay, just special education, because I saw special education and labor and
negotiations,
employment.
we haven't used them for labor and employment negotiations for a while.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
For the teachers
negotiations.
Yeah, it's a couple of years ago.
Any other questions? So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, we have F5, a student expulsion. It's for student 2024-2. We need a motion and second for that.
I'll make a motion. to
I second
expel.
it.
We have a motion by Chris, a second by Tom. Any questions? If not, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yes,
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
and Mr. Cannon.
Yes.
9 yes, motion passed.
Like, I want to remind everyone, there will be a form that we all have to sign this evening before we leave. And this long to the house.
Polly, I have to come back for hers.
David sent it to us. Okay. We'll have it. Next, we have F6. So another student expulsion for student 2024-3.
I make a motion, we expel that student also.
I second it too.
Second by
Beat me
Tom.
both times, so.
Any questions on expulsion 2024-3? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch.
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
and Mrs. Donahue.
yes,
9 yes, motion passed.
Hi.
Okay, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to move the entire agenda except for those items specifically removed for special consideration.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, other questions? I know we have a few that we have to pull. Pretty much anything dealing with business, so
I'd like to some poll, please.
just let me go through my
Sure.
list first, please.
Yep, I just want,
So pretty much all of I 1 through 17. Actually, 1 to 16, we don't have to pull 1 to 17, just a weeding of books at the library.
Do we need 14, 15?
We don't need 14 and 15 either. Those 1 through 13 and I 1 through 13 and 16.
16.
And then also we need to pull L1 and L2. Yes, Elizabeth.
J 2, 3, 4, and 5.
3, 4, and 5.
J1 also.
Okay. All J. So, okay.
L.
That's it, L1 and 2.
Okay, okay.
Anything else that they like pulled? If not, we have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nope. Okay, then we're gonna go back up and start with I1. We have a motion for bills for payment, I1.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for bills for payment.
I'll second.
Well, motion and second. Any questions on bills? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay. Next, I'd like to make a motion to, for the proposed final general fund budget for 2024-2025 in the amount of $88,974,900.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Roger, second by Jeff. Any questions on the proposed final general budget?
Yes.
Go ahead, Chris.
On the page for reduction of expenses, the shortfall. We have capital reserve, 600,000. All totaled with those accounts being pulled is 1,900 or $1,920,000. That is not cutting our budget. We're just moving money from accounts to other accounts to make our May shortfall smaller. Before I can vote on anything for a tax increase or anything, I want to know what we are going to do specifically. Where are we going to make cuts so that we can reduce our expenditures and not just move money around?
Redmond?
If I may, invite Joni up, on that, while she's on her way up, we have done quite a bit of work. And thank you to Joni for doing that to make some pretty significant budget reductions. And she can speak a little bit more to what they have been, but on the 9th page of the 2024-2025 budget update, May board meeting 2024, it lists out the things that we have done to date to reduce our expenses.
Yeah, they're not transfers. They're actual physical cuts. They are taken out of the budget. They're actual expenses. So the $600,000 that used to go and transfer to capital reserve is cut.
What are we gonna do when we need that?
That's one of those
That's a good question.
discretionary amounts that we can remove. So I guess we'll have to, that's a
'Cause
great question. I
all of
guess the
those
board,
accounts right there are in reserve for something.
no, they are actual cuts
Okay,
from, their actual expense cuts that reduce the budget
okay.
by $1.9 million. We are
okay.
still also continuing until when you finalize the June budget to also continue to cut expenses. We are still working on, there could be possibly more resignations and retirements. So we are continuing to work on cutting the budget, even more than the 1.16.
Okay.
But yes, they are truly all expenses, actually expenses cut from each of those line items.
Okay. 'Cause that really had me, when I saw some of these, I'm like, well, what if we need that? Where are we gonna go?
We did discuss, I don't know if you remember back in the finance meeting, to move, we made interest of about $350,000 from our CD, from the $7 million in our CD. The finance committee did recommend to move that to capital reserve. So we
Okay.
did, we are, and we will continue to find ways to hopefully fund that. But that 600,000 was again, a discretionary amount that could be cut from the expense.
Okay.
Any other questions on the budget? Well, we have a motion and second. for Proposed final general fund budget. We have a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Johnson,
Yes.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
No.
Mr. Scaff,
No.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
No.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling.
Yes.
5 yes, 4 no.
Motion passed. Next,
Okay. Like to make a motion that we approve the 2024-2025 school year menu prices.
I'll second that.
we have a motion and second for the 2024-25 lunch prices. Any questions?
Oh, that's good.
And the only comment I'll make again, our students do receive free lunches
Yep.
and free breakfast. This is just basically for adults.
Yep. That's great.
Any other questions? No. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to what is it? Four, yeah. The authorize the official resolution for the KCSD grant.
Second.
We have a motion and second for authorize Dr. Redmond and Ms. McIntyre to sign the paperwork for a grant. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the agreement with Keystone Security and Technologies Incorporated.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on Keystone Security?
Somebody else gotta jump in here sooner or later.
No questions?
No, it's felt good. Good, good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for, to approve the agreement with Fry's Fire Protection.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the agreement with Beacon Light Behavioral Services contract beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2026.
We have a second.
Second that.
We have a motion and second. Any
I got a
questions?
question on
Go
that.
ahead.
Why does it have Jacqueline Martin's name on it?
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's in the header.
Yeah.
It was work session. I'm sorry. I noticed, I should have mentioned it too.
So we
Yeah.
can make that change, but that shouldn't stop the board from. approving
Okay, and the
contract.
other question I have, is this the only place that we use for this service, or do we have more?
Sorry, I can't answer that question right now.
Okay. If you get back to me on that, I'd appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other questions? We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passed.
I'd like to make a motion for the change order to remove contamination soil due to an existing underground tank at the Liberty Curtain excavation site, and it is not to exceed $1,224.11. Just to let you know, this was a clerical error and the amount listed from the April votings meeting.
Motion, we have a second.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and second. Any questions? Again, this is not a new change order, just there was a mistake, numbers transposed. We voted on in April, so it's just to fix it.
Yeah.
So, if no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve the maintenance agreement with Automated Logic.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for I-9. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for I-10 to approve the water treatment agreement with Integra Tech.
We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second it.
A second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion for I-11, approve the transition from Jamf Pro MDM to Mosley Manager MDM. I hope I said those names right.
We have a second.
I'll
Good.
I'll second it.
We have a second. Any questions?
This is just for computer management.
It's some of our device management.
That's
So,
what I was
yeah.
wondering. The Apple
Mhm.
stuff. Okay.
Any other questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for I-12 to approve the food service bid participation agreement with PRFSD.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any questions? Not signify by saying aye. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for I-13, the approval of the agreement with UPMC for pediatric therapy services for the 2024-25 school year.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Down to 16.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for I-16 to approve the row sprinkler systems maintenance agreement for 2024-2025 Central Mountain High School, Central Mountain Middle School, Mill Hall, and Robb.
Second.
We have a second, motion and second. Any questions? Yes, Elizabeth?
I'm just, it's not critical, but when Liberty Curtain, is that gonna be, we'll just amend this contract? Or they're, maybe because they're in a different county, they have to go with a different one? But I'm just putting it out there.
Don't have
So,
an answer for that right
yeah, don't worry. That's like, it's not critical.
Yeah, I think, aren't these contracts we renew annually?
Yeah,
And we
so
won't
it'd be
worry
the
about that.
following. Thank you,
Worry
Rob.
about that
You're
for 25.
next.
Okay.
So,
Okay, any other questions? Not? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. What, J1?
L.
We're up to-
Oh, yeah, okay, I guess we're going
Yeah,
J. Okay, all right, J1. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for J1. That the Keystone Central School District Board of Directors approve the following recommendations for the board. A motion to approve the human resources recommendation as presented in the exhibit.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Chris.
From my count on here, we're going to. I talked to Dr. Redmond earlier about it, but we're gonna employ 30 people and we have 10 resignations. Now, he explained a lot of the employment is the summer stuff, which I wasn't aware of. But if we go clear to the bottom, I don't know if we can do the 2 administrative ones until we get to the Act 93 thing at the bottom.
Are you talking about the 2 or the retirements?
No,
Yes.
it's these 2 administrative positions, the employment of,
Oh, the employment of, okay.
No, I'm talking
Oh,
about the
you are
2 at
talking
the
about-
very bottom.
The
you are talking about
retirement-
the
the
admin-
resignations.
resignations.
You're talking about those 2
Retirements,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, the 2
Yes.
retirement, yeah, it even said it's contingent on if we pass the other.
Right.
If we don't pass. Whatever it was.
The MOU.
L-
It says it's only valid.
LOU.
Yeah.
Okay,
These are
okay,
not.
that's was my question.
Any other questions on J1?
Uh, Yeah, no, I wanted to make sure that with all the retirements that we're having and everything, are we adding new positions, or with this shuffle, are we just moving positions around? And Dr. Redmond advised me earlier, we're not adding new positions, that
You mean
we are
new-
shuffling
New employees or new
Yes.
positions?
new employees,
Oh,
correct?
employees. Okay.
Well, technically, there are some replacements, which would be a new employee, but we're not adding positions.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Any other questions? Not. We have a motion and second for J1. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for J2 to approve the updated job description for technology / curriculum and innovation secretary.
I'll
We have a
second that.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on that? J2? Yes, Elizabeth?
Okay, this question, is actually for J2, J3, J4, and J5. So this question would, instead of me repeating the question, unless if, you know, Robert's rules, I repeat the same question repeatedly for each one, but this is the question. I am concerned that the flow chart that we were presented to a couple months ago, which we deeply appreciate, like seeing the flow chart, I am absolutely confused on is everyone getting a secretary? Who's gonna be our board secretary? What's happening with our athletics director that we currently have that seems to be doing a great job? I am absolutely confused. And so how can I realize I'm just voting on quote, the job description, but I want to know what the full game plan is, even though the board doesn't do that. That's the superintendent's job, is to decide who goes where. But I don't feel confident voting for these unless I have an idea on who's going into what position, and especially because of what we just heard this evening. I, of course, that's outside of my bounds as a board member, but one of the comments we heard this evening now makes me even more concerned that there is one thing about it. I respect efficiencies and, you know, less employees. I fully, you know, I'm going to support that 1,000%. But if it means at all that it's going to be affecting our kids in any way, I can't.
With all due respect, Elizabeth, you just voted no to a tax increase, and now you are going against a way for us to cut the budget. Am I correct on that?
Oh,
Hey,
no,
Polly,
Polly, no,
Polly,
Polly, no.
Let me interrupt. Let's let her finish, then I'll give you an opportunity as soon as she's done, okay, Polly?
So my question is, I mean, is it already pre-planned, or do we know who the athletic director is? Do we know who the board secretary is? Or do we vote for this and then we're just told later?
May I respond?
Please,
So,
Dr. Rugby.
we're not making a change in the athletic director. So the athletic director
Oh,
is
good.
picking up the position of the virtual school principal.
Oh, good.
So, and on the board secretary, that is a position that's being reassigned to my administrative assistant, as it has been in the past. So when Patty retires in June, then we'll hire her replacement. And that person, assuming that the board elects to assign that person to the board secretary, will pick up that role. So that is
Okay.
a person that
So-
is not hired at this point yet.
Oh, so we don't know who that person is?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
But
Didn't
there is
know
a
that.
board member that's on the committee for that hire.
Oh, I didn't know we could do that.
Because the board has to vote for that position, right?
Mm-hmm.
Polly,
Yeah, I was just questioning, I guess. It sounded like she was opposing the fact that we do something to cut the budget a little bit, and you just voted no for a tax increase. I mean, I don't want to raise taxes either, but when we don't do anything, we've got to cut the meat and not the fat. We've said it for how many years? I mean, you guys said it before I was even on here. I think that was Wayne's favorite thing to say was, there's no more fat to cut. We've got to cut meat now. And so it was just a question. I mean, I like I said, I don't want to raise taxes either, but without affecting our students negatively, I just don't know how else to do it.
Okay, well, thank you, Polly. I
thank you,
just-
Polly. So, anyone else have any
So these
questions?
aren't, okay, thank you very
They're not
much.
new
That was
positions.
helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If not, we have a motion and second for J1. J2. I'm
J2.
sorry, we passed one. I'm confused, sorry. J2. The technology
OPS.
equipment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to pass J3 to approve the job description for administrative assistant to the superintendent / assistant superintendent / communications and the school board secretary.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any questions on J3? Again, this is just pretty much realignment of positions, adding stuff to already existing position, not creating a new one.
Well, we're cutting the Director of Curriculum and Innovation on
No.
all of
No,
these.
no.
Why is it scratched out?
Where are you looking?
Keystone Central School District, title Administrative Assistant to
Ah.
Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent.
I'm sorry, now I understand your question. So part of that changing around and reassigning of the duties is currently my administrative assistant is also supporting the curriculum and innovation director. So we're shifting those duties to the previous job description. So it's lined
Okay.
out there just to show that we're
That's what I was
moving the job
wondering.
duty from one and placing it somewhere else.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is confusing.
So
But I
is.
understand.
J3, that some of that part, some of that job is going to the J2 that you just passed.
Right, that's what I was wondering, because I saw all that stuff crossed out.
Yeah, that's what, you just kind of have to put them up side by side and read 2 and 3 together to see where things went. So it's just moving responsibilities. So, any other questions on J3? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion for J4 to approve the job description for the administrative liaison for safety and compliance and virtual school.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions?
Is that a slot that's already being done?
Yeah, it's we're not adding, it's a different packaging of
Okay.
duties.
That's why I think I like Elizabeth's thing about, can we get a flow chart or something sent to us of who's doing what, so we know who we're talking about?
Sure. Well, yes, we'll get, again, one of the positions is going to be vacated by retirement.
Okay,
So we don't have all those answers, but we'll get that information to you.
all
That'd
right.
be super.
But
before
again,
the
you're not
school.
hiring somebody new, or there's not a.
We're not adding on,
increases
no, we're not
in
adding on any more
expenditures.
positions.
That would be a big help for us that don't know anybody, everybody
You
anyway.
know, I don't think when we make a flow chart, it won't have the name of that person. I don't think. we can do
That would be helpful if it did.
Yeah,
Are we allowed to put names in there or is it just position?
I don't see.
Well,
why you
after,
couldn't.
yes, after this, then it's public information
Okay.
who's doing what job.
Once we pass all this,
Right,
then the flow chart.
That would be really
that
helpful.
would be
It really would.
real helpful.
Okay, so we're at J4. Motion and second. Any other questions? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Okay. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to pass J5 and approve the job description for Principal of Online Learning / Athletic Director.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any questions
All
on?
right, I just
on
want
that?
to make sure I understand what you said. I think you said, Dr. Redmond, you're basically just giving some more responsibilities to the athletic director.
It's a little more complex than that. Currently, the athletic director is part-time athletic director, part-time assistant principal for Central Mountain High School. Part of the shift is to have the athletic director take over the duties as the virtual school principal. And then we're also planning to hire an assistant principal to backfill for Central Mountain High School.
So this will result in an additional hire.
Well, it's moving things around. So if you recall, in the elementary school, one of the principals is retiring that we're not replacing. So overall, general picture, we're not increasing the number of.
They're
administrators.
maintaining the number that they have. I know.
Answer your questions, Bill?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other
Thank you.
questions? We have a motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Down to
L1. Okay. Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pass L1, approve the MOU with Act 93 for early retirement incentive.
I'll second
We
that.
have a motion and second, excuse me, for L1. Any questions on the MOU?
I asked Dr. Redmond to explain this because I have some questions on it, on to how the Act 93 truly works. Because in our paper, we have Robert Pasella is going to retire if we pass that, and so is Rhonda Phillips. Why do we have to let that pass for them to retire? I don't understand that. It's almost like we're being held hostage. If you want us to do this package, you got to extend retirement benefits. How many years are they already getting for retirement versus how many years have they been here to help us?
I don't know, I can't answer the second part of your question, but the first part of
Okay.
your question, built into their contractual agreement, they would, once they reach the retirement criteria before that early retirement incentive, they would have 8 years of single medical coverage that they were eligible for.
Right, and
post-retirement.
that's what I mean. If we have somebody that's been here 4 years, we're paying 8 years of retirement and we're gonna add another year. To me, that's running the price of what we're doing up.
The agreement is only for employees who have 30 or more years of PZER service.
Okay,
I think that's the pension. I think when I'm sorry, at least this is what I think. I'm trying to understand.
Let Chris speak.
Yeah,
instead of trying to
okay,
speak
thank you.
for him.
I'm just. I understand it's the overall package for however long. Let me use you for an example. However long you've been in the school service. How long have you been at Keystone Central? Okay, and that's what I meant. If he's put his time into the group, but isn't it a little crazy that we're paying 8 years, retirement's gonna make it 9 years for somebody that's been here for 6? But I understand from what you're saying, it's a total group thing.
That's right.
Is that really saving us any money?
When Joni ran the calculations, then the reason that we are asking the board to approve this early retirement incentive is that if 2 or more of the folks from Act 93 were to take advantage of the early retirement incentive, the district would see a net savings.
Do we know how much it will be?
I would have to ask Joni.
I don't know, I absolutely. But I figured the whole reason for offering it was if you didn't offer the incentive,
then they wouldn't retire. So then you're going to have them on your insurance anyway. So the whole idea behind the incentive was to get people to retire earlier so that we could see the savings.
But
So
they're
you're,
still gonna be on the insurance regardless,
yes,
right?
yes.
So
So,
what
but
are
now
you
but now
saying?
you're taking them off your payroll. And more than likely, especially for the teachers, they're at the top end of the scale. You'll probably bring in somebody with a lesser salary. So there is the savings there. In some of the teachers' cases, we, through attrition, we didn't have to replace some of them. So there's where you also recognize the savings. And I did do the calculation, even if we add on an extra year of insurance, we're still going to see the savings. Plus you have these people taking the insurance sooner, even the 8 years sooner, because it keeps increasing, it keeps, the cost keeps increasing every year. You're going to put them on that plan sooner. So even in the out years, you're going to see a savings.
But if somebody wants to retire, aren't they going to just retire?
No, we don't want to personally ask Rob that, but
Right.
I don't know if Rob would have retired had we not offered this plan.
I guess the thought
Because
process
if
is-
they retire, we still gotta replace them. So we're gonna be paying for 2 people versus 1. That's what I'm wondering. The only way that I see a significant savings is if that 8-year retirement benefit is cut.
No, we're not able to do that. That's just, there's no way we can do that because we have contractual agreements with these folks and we can't make that change in the middle of their contract. It's not legal to do that.
So we're gonna have to hire somebody else and put them right on the same contract, right? Or can we instill a hiring freeze to stop that till the next contract comes up?
Not with these positions, no.
I
We
just
know.
asked Tracy, I thought negotiated for new employees, you can't have like the family coverage is all individual coverages, was it?
For
See,
new
we're-
hire, for
we're
new
gonna put
teachers, on the
ourselves right
teacher
back
side,
in the
it
same
was
boat.
spousal exclusion.
Yeah.
Spousal
spousal
exclusion.
exclusion for
That's all.
certain instances.
That's
So-
part of what they cut, there'll be just spousals or spousal exclusion, part of that and on. But the hope is by having people at the higher end of the scale retire, you can replace them at a lesser cost with people at the lower
Correct.
end of the scale. and
Correct.
Save money. You're gonna end up paying for an extra year of insurance, but you should be able to save that money by replacing the high salary with a lower salary.
Correct. And some
you
of those
think
people,
Somebody will take that position knowing that that's what he made before? So why should I have to be hired at less?
We don't have to hire them.
Well,
Right.
That-
I mean,
that-
look. That goes.
Go ahead, Elizabeth.
Okay. Joni, thank you. I do understand what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying. The crux in this whole thing, which we can't do anything about this evening, is that pre-COVID, we might have had a nice pool of candidates, and they might have a deviation in the range of their salaries, but in today's world, the pool of candidates has shrunk considerably, and they can cherry pick wherever they want to work. So I am prepared when we do start talking about the facilities, new hire, job description, what have you. I am prepared that what we thought about 5 years ago would be a reasonable, respectful salary is the low barometer today. So I'm prepared for that. So that's something we can really do about this evening. It's unfortunate. We'll see what happens.
I think the difference between when you're looking at the teacher contract and the Act 93 group is the Act 93 is not a binding negotiated contract. CBA, whatever you want to call it. It's an agreement. And when you bring in a person, you bring in a new person to replace any of the retirees, you have the flexibility to look at whatever they're bringing to the table. If they have whatever their background is, what their experience is, what their trainings are, what their certifications are, whatever. And you can determine at that point what you would like to hire them at. The teacher's contract, you have a salary scale laid out, and wherever that person comes in, if they have 10 years experience and they have a master's degree or whatever, they fall right on that scale.
Right.
So you don't have a choice, but you do have more flexibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Redmond, but I think with the Act 93, you do have the ability to set your salary a little bit better as far as what you feel that person brings to the table. If they have a lot of experience, sure, you're going to want to pay them more. And you're right. I mean, the job market is different today than it was a few years ago before COVID. So, I mean, it is a little more difficult to get people into some of these positions.
Yep.
But that doesn't mean we need to break the bank to do it, I guess is my point. You do have that flexibility when you hire an Act 93 employee.
Do we have the flexibility to change their retirement benefits though?
Well,
No,
that's
that's part of the
whatever's written into the Act 93 agreement.
Okay.
Because it's an agreement. It's not the same thing as a teacher contract,
Right.
but it is an agreement, and you have to abide by that agreement. So
Okay.
whatever's written in there, and it's a lot of the things in the Act 93 group mirror what is in the teacher contract.
Right.
And so you can't, if you have an agreement, unless you go in and you open that with them and do an MOU like we're doing right here,
Mhm.
then you could do it that way. You could make a change as long as they're in agreement with that.
So
But I know.
I just
it's-
don't see how we can save any money doing
it's,
that.
I'm not convinced that the word convinced is incorrect. I'm sorry about the grammar. I just think that they're potentially, there is some savings there, but is it an astronomical amount in today's job market?
Right.
We'll find out. We'll find out, but I will say this, that's one thing that third-party consulting firms, it's the only way around it until this is situated.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's another state.
Any other questions on that L1? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Knopf,
Yes.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
No.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
No.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston.
Yes.
7 yes and 2 no.
Motion passed.
Okay. Excuse me.
L2.
I'd like to make a motion to pass L2 to approve the MOU with ACCE for a lead nurse stipend.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second for L2. Any questions on that? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Lynch,
Yes.
Mr. Scaff,
Yes.
Mrs. Smith,
Yes.
Dr. Baldino,
Yes.
Mr. Cannon,
Yes.
Mrs. Donahue,
Yes.
Mr. Elling,
Yes.
Mr. Johnston,
Yes.
and Mr. Knopf.
Yes.
9 yes votes. Motion passed.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Before we adjourn, I'd like to make a few comments if I can. Apparently Elizabeth has one also. I'll let you go first.
Thank you. I have no idea when Tracy Long's last day is our school board president. School board secretary. I
secretary.
keep saying
You
that.
didn't take
It's,
my
well, see,
job.
that explain, well, that,
Aren't you lucky?
actually, that's basically what I was gonna say. I have never met, maybe it's just because I've had a chance to get to know her more than other staff members, but I have never seen her yell, complain. She is 100% adaptable. She has always smiled to me. I see her leaving late at night when I'm here. The district is extremely fortunate that Tracy Long decided to take employment here, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're a stellar human being and a great professional person. Excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you, very nice. The only thing I was gonna comment on, two things real quick. I know I'm holding you guys late, but head football coach at Bucktail, I'd like to congratulate Kevin Ransom as being selected as the head football coach. Some people might remember, some might not. His brother was the head football coach for a long time at Renovo, so he's just carrying on a family tradition. So I want to thank you for that. And the second day, we had a visitor today in our schools. The Secretary of Education was here, and it was just a great experience. I know I heard him comment numerous times how impressed he was with the tour he had at Robb Elementary and here at the CTC, and letting him know so he can tell the people in Harrisburg all the great things we have here and trying to get an advocate. And it seemed like he was very impressed with the school. So I want to thank whoever arranged for him to be here today. So thank you. Tyler Barton.
I'd also like to say that to the staff and everybody involved in Special Olympics, those folks did a stellar job, especially the kids. And that only proves my point that they're not disabled, they're only challenged. Because a lot of them kids did feats that they never even thought they could. And I raise my hat off to all of them.
Yep.
Very cool.
If not, nothing else, and with a motion, a second adjourn. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Okay.